Thank you for tuning in to the Live Like An Acrobat podcast. I'm your host, Shenea Stiletto, two-time acrobatic gymnastics world champion, USA Gymnastics Hall of Fame member, and world-class circus hand balancer. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment in support of the podcast, which is available on all platforms. Enjoy the show. Please make sure to check out the Circuspreneurblog.com for extended conversations and interactive content of each episode of the Live Like An Acrobat podcast. Check out Circo.co, a new circus school online international platform where you can learn hand balancing with me and learn so many other circus disciplines from trained cirque performers from all over the world. On this episode of the Live Like An Acrobat podcast, I interviewed Chinese pole artist extraordinaire Léo Pilote. Léo Pilote started out as a figure skater before being discovered at the Circus School of Quebec, age 10. She went on to train at the coveted National Circus School in Montreal, specializing in Chinese pole. Léo Pilote graduated as only one of two women with a specialty in Chinese pole and has gone on to have a successful career as a circus artist performing for top companies such as Circus Monti in Switzerland, Patrick Sebastien's Le Plus Grand Cabaret du Monde, the Wintergarten Variete in Berlin, and most recently in the Cirque Du Soleil production in Hangzhou, China, X, the Land of Fantasy. Please welcome the fantastic Léo Pilote to the show. My conversation with the Léo Pilote was just wonderful. It was so nice to catch up with Léo after so many years. Léo is such a dynamic and exuberant personality and Chinese pole artist. Again, she is incredibly rare and unique, even still within the circus world. And it's been awesome. I met her when she was fresh out of circus school. I was very much into my second stage of my career, but still kind of at the beginning. It was a start for me as well. I had just started performing as a solo hand balancer and I'd stopped doing duo acrobatics. So in some ways, I was just like Léo when we met. I was at the beginning of a new career that I was forging. So all those years ago, back in Berlin, when I met Léo, and our paths were able to crisscross, even if it was for a short time. But when you hear about the overlappings of our careers, you will love it. It was just very sweet. And I've always have very fond memories of working with Léo. She is a fantastic artist. You will hear and learn so much about Léo's experience and so much of our shared experience in this episode as well. We have so many great things in common and have so many similar perspectives, and I had so much fun talking to Léo. She is just a beautiful person. She is a lovely, lovely woman, and she has such a great way in speaking about her journey and in describing her journey. And I always remember that fondly about Léo as well. She is a great, I would say, she was just a great speaker. She's a great talker. She has a great way of sharing her experiences. And I think that she is so incredibly impressive. Léo has been through a lot in her career, and not many people, even what I have known, would be able to make it back within the industry after going through what she's been through. And the fact that she continues and she's persevered and has been as successful as she has is really amazing. And there's so much to learn and to gain from how determined Léo is and how resilient she is, and also too how honest she is about all of her experiences too, because to me that's the most valuable thing that you can give to others is the honesty and the authenticity of what your experience was. And so thank you for tuning in, and please enjoy my conversation with the Léo Pilote. She is just marvelous. Hi, Léo. How are you? Welcome so much to the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Hi. I'm doing pretty well. I'm pretty happy to be here.
Aw, thank you so much. Like, it's been forever since we spoke. I mean, we worked together. It feels like, and it feels like an entire lifetime ago since we were together, like literally. I mean, it was what we were talking about it right before we started the podcast. It was what, like 2013 or 2014 when we worked together?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Actually, it was like my 23rd birthday, the first night we switched place on stage.
Oh my God. Yeah. Never. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
well, it's been 7 years because I'm 30 now. So
Oh my God, 23 to 30? That's like a completely different human being.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, it's just like, that's like so crazy. Yeah, it's so weird because like the way that like our contracts, like the way that it overlapped, like, I mean, like that, like never happens. Like that was so like sweet because we should have like never met, like normally
yeah. I know,
the way that it
I
happened.
know.
We integrated.
Normally, so many people like don't even meet, but we had the chance to perform the first week together and then switch place. It was nice.
Yeah, it was so cool. Like the way that we were able to integrate it. And I was leaving the show and you were coming into the show. And like also the other thing too is like we do completely different acts. I mean, I do hand
Yeah,
dancing, you do Chinese pole. It's like so super unique, but we were using the same music. So it was like completely different interpretations of Nina
yes,
Simone, Feeling Good. Like I love that music, but just so different. Like we couldn't have been more different.
yeah. But it was so great. It was seriously that show. Doing that, like I did it during like what 5 years on and off. It was so nice. Just
So great.
all the cast, all the energy, you know. Well, you do know you did it.
Yeah, it was one of those shows too. It was all night long for everybody that's listening. And it was in Berlin, in Germany at the Wintergarten Variete. And it was my second show. First I did Funky Town for the Wintergarten during the summer, like probably like a year or two before that. And then they brought me back to work solo in All Night Long, but I had already had a different contract signed before they contacted me. So I could only do All Night Long for a certain amount of time. So then, of course, they had to hire a different artist to fulfill the contract because I was going to be leaving. And that's where you came in, Leo. And then every time after they contacted me to do All Night Long, when they did it again, I didn't have availability. So I didn't get to do it again. And so I was sad, about that because it was one of my favorite shows I've ever done. Like you were saying, the energy was so beautiful. We got to perform to the live band. It was Nina Simone. It was Feeling Good. Like the singer, oh my gosh, she's so amazing.
Yeah.
Ugh, like she was so incredible. Like I just was, so sad to like never have a repeat of that. But like I'm so glad that like, you got to do it, Leo, and several like other like the original cast members like came back and did All Night Long like afterwards, right?
Yeah. We sorry. We did a summer season in 2016 if I remember properly. We also did Vulheide in 2000. We did twice the Vulheide. It's like an open air in Berlin. Okay, sorry. I drank my coffee and it didn't pass in the right hole.
Take your time.
So yeah, so we did Devil Hider twice. The first one was really close to the first time we finished the show, so I would say 2015, but I'm not 100% sure of it. Maybe it's 2016. And then after we did it again, and we also did a little tour in Denmark, like 2 weeks
Oh,
of touring with the show, and we did once in 2017, if I remember properly, um, So same thing, we did the Vulheide again, and then the little tour, and that time that was in Germany. Um, so yeah, we reunited couple of times with all the cast. At one point, the cast changed a little bit because of people availability is and stuff, but most of the time we were like everyone. Like there would be one person missing or something like that, but never like the complete cast never completely changed.
Yeah. Oh, that's so wonderful. Oh, I know Denmark. I remember Denmark, and I would have loved to have done that. That's still a country I've never been to. I've never been to Denmark. Like a few opportunities to go there, and I love Denmark. I love everything about Denmark, and I've never
It's so pretty.
been able to go. Yeah,
Like
it
the
sounds cool.
we were in in an hotel that looks like, I don't know, like I felt like if I was in a castle, you know.
So amazing.
All the little details and everything. That was amazing.
Where were you coming from, Leo, when you came into All Night Long? You were coming off of some tour, weren't you?
Yeah, I was coming from Switzerland.
Mm,
I was there with Circus Monti.
right.
So I did this a full season with them. That was my first big contract after finishing school. I finished school in Montreal at the National Circus School in 2012, and by then I was injured. So I didn't know at the time if I would be able to do circus again. And I took the summer to get better and everything. And then I was contacted by Monty, and I was going there working with um, my ex partner, with whom I was doing a duet. So because we were going to do that show together, I was like, it's a good try for my body. So if if I was in pain or something, she would have the option to do our solo because we were both soloists.
Mhm.
And then it went really well. And after that, I was contacted by the Wintergarten. And so I finished my shows in Switzerland. We were in Bern at the time. And after the last show, I packed my stuff. And in the morning, I flew for Berlin
You were
right away.
you flew on in. Were you it wasn't Monty in the caravan, right?
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Mm.
But you know what? My family laughed at me a lot. The first time I told them, yeah, I'm going to Switzerland, I'm gonna live in a caravan and everything. And they were like, Leo, you're too much a princess to do that. And I was like, we'll see. It's an adventure. Like sometimes I'm able to not be a princess, you know? And I loved it so bad. Okay, there was a lot of pink and cute stuff in my caravan, but like I make it my own, but I loved it. Like traveling and helping to build the tent, and like during the break we had the option to go sell food and candies to the kids and everything.
Mm. It's
It
fun.
was it was really nice to be like 100. It's like being 100% part of the circus.
Mm.
Like, you know, sometimes like when you do big shows, you just arrive and all your stuff is ready, and you all you have to do is go on stage, do your act, get out of stage. So I love to be part of all the prep before the show happens.
It's totally a different experience. I mean, not everybody gets that experience, especially if it's their like first time like out of circus school or just like into a circus contract. And I have different friends that started off with Circus Monti too and did like the tour and did all of that. And I know it's really funny too, because when people even think of Switzerland, they think like, oh, Switzerland is so expensive, like you're gonna be
Yeah.
and then it's like, oh, caravan. And so many people don't know there's like Circus also, that's like a major circus, and it's in the caravan, and it's a really exclusive contract, especially too, like it's highly coveted. And what was it before the pandemic, like the summer of 2019, I was and into the fall also too, I was working with Circus Flip Fabrique in Germany. And Circus Flip Fabrique, it's the container. It's like caravanning, but slightly different without wheels. But it's like the same thing, sending people the photos, and people like cannot believe it. They're like, what? It's like a tiny, teeny, tiny container, and it like fits like 2 people, and you have to do your own electricity, you have to get your own water, you have to take care of, everything yourself, like, bringing your cables, and it's just it's something else. And you don't have to do like the setups like you maybe do like for Circus Monti. So it's a little bit like full on. It's a little bit less than like all in, but you're going like every 10 days, and you can take your princess inside of that with you for sure, but you're definitely going to get a little dirty.
Yeah, but I think it's a good thing to get a little dirty,
Yeah, I think it's good.
That, the day we have a contract and we have to, like, I don't know, to flew like 24 hours to get there, but we arrive in hotel, we're just like, oh my God, so nice. I don't have to do anything. I just have to go to bed.
Never take it for granted. Like after you've done like the caravan, after you've done the container, like
exactly.
Take it for granted. Like when you have to go into every backstage, and the backstage has to be built and torn down, and you have to, recreate your act, and you with your pole, and you with all of the mechanics and the rigging and stuff that it takes for that. Like I was going with my stiletto, so I had my really big prop, that we had to unpack and platform. So it was, it's so much work. But I mean, like, how did you feel like, overall, like your evolution? Because I mean, like right before the pandemic, you were in China, right?
Yes.
Totally different show.
Totally different. Yeah, actually, in 2016, then I broke my ACL in one of my knees. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And before I got a date for surgery, I got contacted by Cirque Du Soleil for being part of a new creation. And so then I called my doctor and I was like, I need my surgery right away. But at the same time, I was supposed to go in Germany for the last tour I was talking to you about. So the last tour we did with All Night Long, I didn't have my ACL in my left knee.
No.
Yeah. Because my doctor and I, we were working on rebuilding my muscle first to make sure when I got surgery, I don't lose all my muscle, and then it would be hard to come back to be able to do acrobatics in the period I had before the creation with Cirque Du Soleil would start. So I rebuilt my knee, my thigh. Then I went to Germany to do the open air and then 2 weeks of shows. And when I came back from that,
without an ACL in place.
Without an ACL. No I did way.
No. Yeah. You did.
Yeah. I remove like one move.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I have
I did like 7 shows like that.
No way. I mean, the amount of people that I know that have had ACL, Leo, and I mean, completely debilitated, cannot even walk until they have their surgery. I cannot believe you did that. I mean, either with an ACL or like a meniscus tear, like, oh my God.
Yeah, it was crazy. And for me, it was my test, because I was like, if I'm able to do that without my ACL, I will be fine to do Chinese pole after surgery, you know? That was my way of seeing things, you know?
You are incredible. You are incredible, and crazy, like absolutely, brilliantly insane. Like, oh my God. I mean, this is also too coming from when I wanted you to talk a little bit too about your pelvic injury, because
Yeah,
it is so acute and so extreme when you had that almost stopped like your
yeah.
like you were talking
That's the injury I was talking about before but actually when I finished school.
Mm-hmm.
So it happens in the middle of the year. It happens in November. So I was in my last year at school, and I did a salto and I on the pole, and I kind of eject myself from the pole. But I was in some in French it's longe, but in English it's safety rope or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, safety belt. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was too long before the loose was catch. So I catch the pole, like really extending my arm, but then I came and whip into the pole, and the pole hit between my legs. So at first I was like, oh no, I'm gonna have a bruise again. But then a couple days later, I wasn't able to walk anymore. So then I start having like uh like electric shock from my sacrum to my neck.
Oh,
So then I end up at the at the emergency.
oh my God.
And then it's when they told me, oh, but something seems like, first they take a radio, but they were like, yeah, we don't see anything. Then they prescribed me an MRI, and when I got the result of the MRI, they told me like, yeah, there's something broken. And then I got to the osteopath, and he was like, so dear, did did you had a car accident? And I was like, no, I don't even have my license. I don't drive. Then I was 20 at the time, and I was in Montreal, so no need of a license, you know. So then he told me, he was really shy, and then he asked me if I had kids, and I was like, no, I didn't have kids. And then he just looked at me and he was like, yeah, but okay, I don't understand how that happened. He was like, your injury is an injury that happens when either people drive really fast and hit like a tree, and their legs are still on the like pushing for the speed or the brake, so the legs move backwards when they hit, so then it breaks the pubic symphysis. Or you have a really really big baby that couldn't pass to your through your hips, so then your hips extend too much and it broke. Because
No.
I didn't broke my pubic, like the bone, I broke the symphysis, so the little cartilage who holds like the hips bone in front. So normally a woman who would give birth to a really big baby would open from like 3 to 5 millimeters maximum, and I open it of 1 centimeters. So I completely break it.
Oh my God.
But then, when the electric discharge passed and everything, when the pain was like lower, I was like, I did preparatory program at National Circus School. So it was my 4 years at school when I injured myself. I was like, I won't stay another year. I was like, this is not an option. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do something like to be able to be evaluated and get my diploma so I can get out of the school after. because I didn't want to do another half years. So, so for the annual end of the year show, I created like a 3 minute sequence where I was working always in contact with the pole to make sure I don't hit myself and to make sure it's kind of softer on my body.
Mm-hmm.
So this is when they evaluate me and I got my diploma and everything. And it's also this vocabulary that for all these years I kept working on, like less I still do dynamic stuff on Chinese pole and like acrobatics, but it was really important for me to develop a way of moving around the pole without being close to fitness pole, and not being too close to big, like people throwing big stuff like salto and flag all the time on the pole. So I was trying to dis-
Uh-huh.
dissociate. Oh no, Siri, I don't talk to you. To dissociate myself from both of them, and I keep working on it, and I think it's gonna be like the work I'm gonna do for the rest of my life,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because Chinese pole was at the beginning it was a complete masculine discipline.
Mm-hmm.
It was only guys who were doing it, and they were doing like saltos and flags and strength movement and everything. Then when I got to school, we were the first two girls to graduate as specialists in Chinese pole at the National Circus School. Um, and my partner was way more flexible than me, so she would work on splits, figures like that can go from string to splits or to from acrobatics to split. But honestly, I'm strong, but I'm really not flexible. This is not my forte. So when I got injured, I was like, okay, I cannot do all the dynamics and the strength that I used to do. So then I was like, okay, I need to find a new way to move on this apparatus, and this is where it brought me for now, and I'm really happy to work on that.
Wow. That's really incredible that you made it through like such an intense injury like that and that it didn't like derail your career because like you're saying like that could have been like career ending. I mean,
Yeah,
especially
really.
you're so dynamic. Like for anybody that's listening, like Leo is so incredibly acrobatic on Chinese pole, and so incredibly strong. But like what you do is really, really, really like like so acrobatic, and also too being like the first like two girls, like the first two
Yeah,
women. I mean, that was huge. And like it being so dominated in a way, like by guys. And so like I love that. I love because it's the same in hand balancing, right? Like
yeah,
it took a long time and even still now, like I've worked with, like male like performers and they'll tell me like, you know what, like you're great, we love your hand balancing. They're like, but for me, like solo hand balancing is men. They're like, it's more of a guy thing. And I always tell them like, okay, like, all right, whatever. But like, this is like recent. This isn't, people talking
yeah,
like years ago, but it's still, even with so many like female hand balancers out there, and us making it in our way, feminine, because that's always been like what I wanted to do with hand balancing too, is make it into my own and bring like the feminine quality to it, whatever, like the feminine quality can be interpreted by men and women. And we're seeing that,
Yeah, exactly.
like over the last, like, I would say 10 years, because I've been doing it solo now for, about 10 years. And that's like what I really, really wanted, because it was like, it's not just about, like the male interpretation of it. And it's still, it's better. It's a lot better. Like, but it's come a long way. Like for people that see, like me now and think like, oh, it's super normal. It's like probably for you too, when you see like other, like, female performers doing Chinese pole, and, things start becoming normal, even though it's still like, it's still not, we're not like the majority, right? Like it's still not like a balanced thing with like guys and girls doing it, but it's come a long way. And so, I always tell people like, yeah, but that wasn't like typical, like it's now become super like popular for like girls to interpret it. But it's still funny to me even now, like in circus, when people still have like these old ideas of things where you're like, wow, like that's like wild,
Yeah, and you know what? Something was crazy, like, because when I got to National Circus School, I auditioned in Strat. So I never thought of doing Chinese pole at first. And when I did the audition, they were like, you're small, you're strong, you're acrobatic, you would fit well in this discipline. And they accept me in preparatory and they put me in that discipline, but I didn't know at first. So I learned it like after a couple of days of my first week at school. And I was like, yeah, I'm kind of I'm optimist most of the time.
Yeah.
For sure, I have my down like everyone, but so I was like, okay, I'm here. I moved to Montreal from Quebec City. I'm here for a year for sure because I'm in the preparatory program. So if I'm not good enough, they won't keep me. But let's try for a year, and in the end, this is what I'm doing for a living, and I love the disciplines. But I will always remember when someone told me after one presentation, Leo, you don't do Chinese pole like a girl. And for me, it was so offending because I was like, there's no, like, there's not a way to do it as a girl or as a boy. And recently, like, my friend come to me and we did like a presentation at the end of a creation process, and they told me, I really love the way you do Chinese pole. But for me it's so totally different. Like, I was so happy because I was like, oh my god, what I'm working on for like the past 10 years, even more. I'm just finally like someone finally got it. I was like, there's no such thing as doing it like a girl or like a boy. But there's a way to appropriate, like, you can appropriate yourself, like your apparatus, and make it your own way to doing it. And for me, when my friend told me, I love the way you do it, I was like, okay, that person understood, like,
Finally.
yeah. And I think it's a big fight in like, either for men or for women. Like, it's hard also for men when they started like doing dance trapeze, and like everybody was, and aerial hoops, and everybody was like, oh, but normally it's like flexible woman who's doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But circus, for me, it's such the place where there's no such thing as gender, or like like um like, I don't know, like when you're a kid and your parent asks you like, do you want to go, like, do you want to do ballet or do you want to do figure skating, and you're just like, why don't you asking me if I want to play football or hockey? But for me in circus, there's so many discipline and so many opening, and so many, like, people, most of people are so open-minded, and I don't know, I feel so free in that world. Like, it shocked me when some discipline is associated, even still in 2021, to like a sex, like
Mm-hmm.
specifically. But I think more and more, like in the past 10 years especially, I think there was a huge evolution on that side, and like the disciplines start to just be disciplines, and the people doing it the way she liked to do it, or he likes to do it, or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it totally has. I love it. I'm so happy about that. I mean, and I love being like a part of seeing that evolution, of course, because we see like the evolution of the business and being in it this amount of time, it's so great to be
yeah.
able to see that, And like, didn't you originally, Leo, too, you did like figure skating a bit before you ended up
Yeah,
going to circus, didn't
I
you?
was a kid. I used to, yeah. Oh my god.
I love figure skating, and thinking about you figure skating too. I mean, I don't know how much you end up following it, but I love figure skating. I love figure skating when I was little because I almost did figure skating too, Leo. Like, it would have been figure skating or gymnastics or
Mhm.
acrobatics. It was like going to be something, but you always remind me of Syria Bonali.
Yeah, it's so funny you said that, because Patrick Sebastien, when I did Le Plus Grand Cabaret du Monde, it's one of the first thing he told me. He
Oh,
was like, I was on stage and everybody was staring at me, and I was like, what's going on? And he was like, do you know Surya Bonali? I was like, she's a figure skater, right? He was like, you look so much like her. I was like, oh, thanks. It was my dream to be her when I was a kid.
it was a dream too. Me and my sister used to watch Syria Bonali because we were acrobats when we were watching her, and it meant everything to us that she always took the risk to do the acrobatic movement
Oh man,
when she was doing figure skating. Yeah.
that move is crazy.
It was crazy. I mean, it was so crazy that she was doing that on the ice on a single blade. And like, we were learning that at the same time. And she was all we had, we were like, oh my
Yeah.
God, like she's us. Like
Yeah.
she's willing. I mean, she like got banned from competitions for doing her type of figure skating the way that
I
she wanted
know.
to do it. I mean, even all those years back then, I mean, she would like she protested at some point. She, because they would give her that big deduction for doing the acrobatics on the ice, and she was like, I don't care. Like, I'm gonna not get first place because I'm gonna do the kind of figure skating that I want to do.
Exactly.
And that was years ago. Years ago.
And we still talk about it, so she was right to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
She inspired like so I would say more than just one generation. She inspired so many figure skaters and skaters in general.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. She did. I mean, she's I follow her still, and she's in America now. I think she's in Minnesota now.
Nice.
Yeah, she's in the state of Minnesota, and she has a figure skating school there. She works with her husband. It was his school, and then she came in.
Oh my god, awesome.
Yeah. She's so amazing. I love that Patrick Sebastian said that to you, though. I mean,
Yeah.
that like my life would have been like what you said. I would have been like, what? Like, yes.
I was just like, oh yeah, thank you. This is such a compliment. I was like,
I agree. I would have been like, yes, I know. Making your debut. I mean, first on, it's on like such an amazing show. Like, they do a tour too now of the show. I mean, it's so incredible. Like, yeah, that would have been incredible to do the tour. I'm sure they're probably going to redo it after
yeah.
like the pandemic, because it got interrupted because of the pandemic. But when did you do the show? And I mean, other than you having like an epic experience, like, how else was your experience doing Patrick Sebastien?
Um I did I went to Sweden
Mm-hmm.
during a summer. I was working at Liseberg park. It's like an attraction park, and I was part of. I was with actually I was with Monsieur Chapeau, who was with us on all night long. He
Oh,
was doing his rola rola act
oh,
with the suitcase and everything, and I was doing Chinese pole in duet at the time, and it was with, I don't know if I will pronounce it properly, but Karl Heiner Hackner. He's like he do one man shows of magic slash comedy slash a lot of blood everywhere slash like a bit absurd, but he's really funny. And he it was his show, like his summer show at the park, and he came to see all night long at one point, and he asked me and Chapeau if we want to be part of his show.
And you were like, sure, blood, comedy,
Yeah.
magic, why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I did the show for the summer. It was 2015, I think. It was really nice.
Mm.
Yeah, it was really nice. I also did some shows in Quebec,
Mm-hmm.
but really not much. I did like a cabaret for Christmas at Quebec Circus School, who's the school where I started circus.
Oh,
So
okay, you started
it
Quebec.
was,
Cool.
yeah, I started in Quebec, so it was nice to perform in my school, like in my first school. And yeah, it's so hard, like like in my mind to go back. Sometimes I forget stuff, but
When did you get the invitation to go and perform on Patrick Sebastien? Like, how did you make the leap there? So you were in Sweden, then you were in Quebec,
mm,
and then like what was the leap? Because did you perform?
I'm not sure. But I think I was in Sweden at the time.
Okay, and that's when you did solo. Like, how did you make your leap too from like doing your duo act to performing solo Chinese folk? Because when I worked with you, you at the Wintergarten in Berlin,
Yeah.
you were a soloist. So.
The thing is, I did the school as a soloist in Montreal,
Mm-hmm.
and my partner with whom I was working before also. So we were training together all the time. And at the school, there's a, like, if I can call like that, like a program or an opportunity. During the summer, you can take part of a creation that will be you will be with a director and some other people from the school, sometimes some people who just finished school or are professional. It's like it's been like less than 5 years, I think, or 3 years that they are professional. So it's people that haven't been that much on the market yet.
Mm-hmm.
So that project, I did it with my friend, and then from that project we start working together and build a duet. So when we left for Monti, we went as a duet in Monti. Then I got called by the Wintergarten as a soloist based on what I was doing at school. Like all my promo stuff was in solo because when I was at school. And so I did Wintergarten alone. But when Karl Heiner Ackner asked me for the show in Sweden, I asked him, can I do it in duet? And he was like, yeah, no problem. So then I went back there with my partner to work together as a duet.
Ah.
And after that, we had the call for Patrick Sebastien TV show. And that TV show was the last thing we did together. After that, we decided to work separately as a soloist.
How has that been for you? Because like you and I both had similar journeys in that way, because I did like duo acrobatics for a long time, and then but I didn't start out as a soloist. I think for you it's probably different because you did start out as a soloist and then you went into a duet and then you came back into being a soloist. That's also like interesting and like unique to me too. But my experience was, going from being like in a duo to being like solo was like so different, and the transition was so hard and just like so strange for me. But something like that I like obviously like really wanted to do. But have you like stayed as a soloist? Because I mean, right up until the pandemic, you were working in China. So I'd love to hear about, like your creation that you were doing there. Because I was working in China too, right before the pandemic happened too. I was working in Macau. I was living there for like a year, working in China. So I know, I mean, there's like probably several things you kind of did in between that too. But what was like the creative process like when you got called in by Cirque, and then also too back to your ACL tear and your surgery and your recovery? Like, how was your recovery? And then how did they kind of like adapt to the fact that you were like, I need to have surgery and then I need to recover and then I'm going to be a part of this creation and then I'm going to move forward with the show? Like, how did Cirque handle that with you too? Like, how did you manage it?
To answer the first question about duet and soloist and everything. Yeah, for sure it was different for me as you, because I knew that I can work as a soloist. And I knew I had the material to do it. So for me, it was just like, it's always nicer to travel when you're two and to experience the stress or like all the hardest part of being an artist, the delay, the stress and everything. For me, it's really better to share it with someone. It takes less amplitude when you do that. And also the good moment, like it's so nice to do like a really good performance and then have someone to hug and to talk to about it, who had lived the same experience as you. So for the sharing part, for sure,
totally,
like going back as a soloist, it was harder, but I'm lucky because I always had really great cast. So even if I was alone on stage, when I get out of stage, I would always have a cast member who would be there for me and vice versa. Then for China, to be honest, first, I never told Cirque du Soleil that I broke my ACL.
Oh,
So I got the, like, they call me, I got the contract, and at the time we were supposed to start on 2017, and I was like, yeah, I have the time to recover.
What time is it when they had contacted you though? If the contract was starting in 2017, when was it in 2017?
I injured my knee on April, I think. Yeah, I injured my knee in April. They contact me around Christmas, like a little bit before Christmas. In 2000, I'm so bad with dates, but
it's okay.
We were supposed to start like middle of 2007.
Oh, okay. So like
middle of 2018. So they contact me around Christmas 2017. So I broke my knee. Yeah, I broke my knee in April 2017, I think. And then I got my surgery November 6th. And then they contact me like not long after my surgery or something.
Wow. And then how long did you have after your surgery before you started creation? Because that was what, like middle, you said, of 2018 that you started creation?
Yeah, but it's because it's hard with dates because we had so many delay. In the end, the show was delayed like more than a year.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it's why I have problem remembering the date. But I do know that I had my surgery. on November 6th. And then on March, beginning of March, I was in Berlin again performing to see how my knee was doing before I go to Cirque.
Okay, that's nice. That's
So less than 4 months, I think, after my surgery. Which normally at 4 months you start doing physio therapy. But I wasn't. Well,
not in the circus.
gotta do what you gotta do.
In the circus, you're back on your act. For regular people, you're just starting to move, stretch, get some mobility. But for us, nope, you're back on stage. That's incredible. That's incredible. Were you still experiencing any kind of like residual pain when you came back?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I still have some. Like my knee is like, if I go for a beer with friends or something, the day after my knee don't bend properly. And I'm really happy now because I can, when you sit on your heels. So the doctor told me, maybe you will never be able to do it again. I'm able to do it. If I warm up enough, I'm able to do it. So I'm pretty happy about that. But yeah, if I'm tired, if I drink alcohol, like if it's humid outside, it's always go straight to my knee.
The inflammation. Yeah.
So, but it's a good thing. Then I know if I have a show, I don't drink. I'm just like, it's gonna be alcohol free for a while. Like, I'm 100% for the show. It's good. It's healthy. It's
super healthy. I was gonna say,
I'm tired. I know my knee telling me, so I go to bed earlier.
You have the best excuse out of anybody. It's like when we go to like the company parties or, we go to the premiere and everyone's like, you have to have some champagne. You're like, actually, no, I cannot because
exactly
my knee is going to get inflamed and then I won't be able to do my act tomorrow. Like I'm going to be
give me some apple juice with bubbles.
Alcohol free, yeah. You can have the alcohol free radler, which I like love. I'm that person. Everyone always thinks I'm drinking. I'm like, actually, no, it's alcohol free.
Yeah, I'm just having fun, guys.
I'm just having a good time, naturally. Exactly. Yeah. I always tell people, if they're not in the circus or if they're not like a sportsman, and then they've had some kind of injury and, people come to me and they ask me all the time, like who should I go to or how should I recover? And I said, you need to go to somebody that's going to rehab you like a circus performer or somebody that does movement based or athletes because they're going to get you back into the game just in regular life, like way quicker. Your rehab is going to be better. And so it's been like really great, like having all of this experience, with so many different injuries, performers over the years. And then obviously like my background in like gymnastics or acrobatics, because I've had a lot of people make a lot of different decisions after they've spoken to me. They're like, I'm going to seek a different specialist. Thank you. Like, wow. I'm like, yeah.
Because you often the specialist will be like, yeah, you're doing competition, everything, your career is done. But in circus, it's like always, how can we manage you doing it without making it worse?
Yes.
But, dealing with the little bit of pain that might give you, but you're going to be happy you're doing it.
How can we keep you in your job and in your career? And
exactly.
Maybe you have to give up like some kind of skills, or you have to change like the way of your life, which is again, we're used to being able to accommodate that. Like, and I think that's what makes us, much more like intuitive person and, creates just like an aware person. You just like, it changes your life, like over the course of your life, like you're saying, it makes you make different decisions, being able to like maintain, your career and your specialty, because I mean, you're so high impact. And I would just love to hear too, like, what was your development like, doing your creation? What is the name of the show? Obviously, for everybody out there.
In China?
Yeah, your show in China.
In English, it's X, the Land of Fantasy. In Chinese, I can't even say it. But Yeah, the creation process, actually, at the beginning, I was so happy with all the delay because it gave me more time to recover from my knee.
Perfect. I love when
So
life helps you
when
out and you don't even know it.
yeah, so when I arrived at the HQ and I had all my medical exam and everything,
In
I was
Montreal.
so stressed. Yeah, because I haven't say I had surgery. I said the first day I get in. I was like, yeah, I had surgery a couple months ago, but it's going pretty well. I'm able to do Chinese pole. I can do some stuffed acrobatics on the floor. And then they were like, you're gonna do like air mat. I was like, oh shit.
What is air
I go-
mat? Can you
like a hair track. I was
air
like,
track.
oh no,
Okay.
I'm gonna work on this. And you're gonna have to climb on a wall with pegs and stuff, like climbing like a little monkey. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, can I have a brace? So then
Oh my God.
so then we ordered, like, I had meetings with some specialists and they were like, yeah, okay, your legs is in good shape and everything, but just to make sure you don't tore it again or anything, we're gonna order a brace. So then they ordered me a brace, and then I did part of the creation with the brace. And when we arrived in China, I removed it because I was like, if like that thing don't work with my costume. And actually, it was a group number in Chinese pole, so I wasn't solist. We were two girls from Canada, and the four other Chinese pole specialists was Chinese guys from Tianjin troupe. So it was really, really nice to see the difference in the, like, how we do Chinese pole differently, and the technique is not the same. And like we were like sharing stuff and trying the way the other was doing, and it was really nice. And we had also two principal character who was in that act. And actually the floor under the there was four Chinese pole, and the floor was also a hair mat, so it was bouncy.
Hmm.
And in the show, it was Chinese pole, and then right after it was air track. So I wasn't, that was not an option for me to wear my brace because I had no time to change. I didn't exit the stage, and I cannot do Chinese pole with a big brace, like looking like Robocop and not being able to bend my leg properly. So at one point I was like, okay, I will just remove it and go slowly and see how it goes. And I was pretty confident because being with Cirque Du Soleil, was my first time working as an employee, like having your insurance furnished by your employer. And like in that condition, if I would get injured doing my job, like I would be take care of, instead of I will have to find a doctor and do all that process by myself. I had a team behind me who would help me in those conditions. So I was pretty confident taking the risk of removing my brace. I think if I would have worked by example, if I would have done Circus Monti in the same moment with that, like, come back from that injury, I wouldn't have been confident. I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be like, I would have been, oh my God, I'm in Switzerland. If I broke my knee again, like, I'm gonna be poor for the rest of my life. But with all the financial securities, if
Mm-hmm.
I can say, that comes with Cirque and with being an employee and not a freelancer, um, really helps me mentally and physically to go through like all the step of going back on stage without any brace, without thinking of my knee too much,
Mm-hmm.
and just doing what I have to do.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would. It actually makes you think. This is kind of like off the subject, but it's on the subject. I think Cirque just opened up like a vaccination site, right? Like offering
Sure,
they're offering like COVID vaccinations now.
it's possible. To be honest, I loved my experience, like, with the process of creation of China, even with the delay, and I had to leave. Like, I left China. Not I had to leave, but I left China when the pandemic started. But we were supposed to go back like a month later, and in the end, we never go back.
What's
They hired, yeah, they hired like locals to replace us temporarily with become permanently, and then because when it became like um a pandemic instead of just an epidemic, um, then they start closing China to strangers. So it was really a big mess. And actually, 3 weeks ago, I finally got my road case
wow?
that was in China for a year and a half with all my belongings.
Wow, that you just got it back now.
Yeah, but
Wow,
even though,
wow.
and not to be racist, but being different physically in China,
Mm-hmm.
it's something really hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
when I arrived, people would touch my skin, take photos, touch
Mm-hmm.
my hair. But
Mm-hmm.
people that I don't know, like, I was at the grocery shopping, and the woman who was placing the stuff in the grocery store came and touched me, and then bring her friend to touch me too. I was like, uh, I've been here for 2 days. I don't know what's happening, but I don't like it.
Same, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like for us being black in China. Yeah. I
Yeah.
was there for a year, and you get used to it. Everybody says, what are they saying? People would say things in
Yeah.
Mandarin, and sometimes the Chinese performers that I was working with, they would say very politely, you don't want to know what they said. And we're just going to change the subject. They would
Yeah.
say something nicer in English to me, and they would change what they said. I know. And people would come up to me too. They would follow me around, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
When I lived in Macau, and people would come up and just start taking photos of me, like just as like a normal person, like just come and hug me and
Yeah.
take photos. And,
So weird.
it's so weird.
But one thing that I learned, because after my first 2 weeks, at one point I was like, I don't go anywhere. I go to the theater and I go home.
Oh.
And my house was like 5 minutes walk, not even, from the theater. Like, I was crossing the street and I was at the theater. But then at one point I start talking about it
Mm-hmm.
with staff,
Mm-hmm.
like some member of the staff who were from Hangzhou, but they were speaking English pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's when I saw in their face, like, how they react to what I was saying, and how uncomfortable they were. Like, they were like, I can't believe people still do that, or stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then speaking with them, I understood that at that point I was like, okay, I need to consider every human being like I would consider a 3-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
So then, when I start thinking like that, it was still weird, but I wasn't feeling like attacked, or like, I was way more comfortable with it, because the youngest, they do haven't, like, they do search, they do look for more information and everything. But the older generation, they didn't have access to information like we have. So for them, when they react like that, it's because probably I'm the first one they see.
Ever. I mean, ever.
That's
They're coming from mainland China. It's literally like it's another world when they see someone who is black. When they see
Yeah,
us,
exactly.
it's like otherworldly.
Yeah. So yeah, it helps a lot.
Oh, that's so beautiful that you came to
Yeah.
that. It's very compassionate, and that's the way I see it too. Sometimes, people afterwards they tell me, they're like, "Do you know them? Like, have you met them before?" I'm like, "No, no, no. I just treat them like I know them. I treat them like
Yeah.
they're my friend instead of a
You
stranger."
are attacking me or
Yeah, coming into my personal space, which, again, instead of it being like a violation, I said, like, how can I come to it where I feel at peace? Because,
Mhm.
even if it's like, born out of ignorance or any of those things, it's such a bizarre experience. Someone coming, they would try and kiss me, because it's also something in China when you're out, like they want to almost kiss you like on the cheek. It's very different. It's very different, and people would say like
Yeah.
it's not them being bad, but they want to have the experience of being that close to you, because it's women.
Mhm.
It's like it would be men and women, and they would be like, oh my god, they're like trying to like physically kiss you. And and the locals, people, other Chinese artists or Chinese, people I was working with, yeah, they would be like, sometimes they would interject and tell them like, like no, like don't to
You
her,
cannot do
but
that.
they would,
It's
try.
not okay.
Yeah, exactly. They would say, you can't keep doing that to her. Like, she's a small, like, woman. Like, after a while, it's too much. Like, let her go. But like, they would, like, I would entertain it to a certain extent, like longer sometimes even than people would think that I would have to. But it's like I would treat it totally like you, Leo. And then it turned into, this beautiful thing too, where I'm like, you know what? I always say, because we're the first in so many spaces, it's such
Yeah.
a different thing, and it's so important. And it's important of how we take care of ourselves, obviously, in those environments, which is like boundaries, right? But it's like the boundaries are different in every single space, because it's like we have to be adaptable. But it's just it's so unique, and it's so important, because then perspective changes. I always say, if we're not there, it can never change, because then they never get to have the experience of someone that's unique or different, and then it never becomes like an evolution within the culture. So to me, it's like it's super important. And I mean, like, we lived that our whole lives, so for us it's not it's not anything new.
Yeah, exactly.
It definitely takes on a different tone, like depending on the country, and in China it's really wild.
Yeah, it was something, but in the end, it makes me like learn so much,
Hmm.
and like knowing all of this, I would do it again. Like
Hmm.
knowing that I would leave because of all the pandemic, and in the end never come back, and knowing like all the frustration I had to pass through without being fully able to express it because of the situation over there. But it, like, I had to go through it a different way. And like, also, oh my god, we need patience in China. Like, we don't realize how fast life goes in America. We have no idea how fast we get stuff, like how fast we are served at the restaurant, and how fast we are answered when we ask for something, like at wherever you work, the company or whatever. But, oh my god, in China, don't be stressed, huh? Because, you know, really often they said time is money. It's not something that you can apply to China, so nobody is in a hurry of anything. And it makes me become so much more patient than I was before, and so much more resilient. And just for that, I would go through the experience again, even though there was some harder part in it. I think it's not rough enough for me to not have the experience again.
Oh my god, it's so true. It's like it just operates. It's just a completely different system. Like, totally. I came out of that thinking the same way. Like, you really, it's counter to kind of everything that you think, like how the world works, like in every single way. It's just like the complete
Yeah.
opposite. Yeah. It totally like time doesn't matter in the same way, like what you're saying, like
Yeah.
you just totally adjust like to like that structure. And, and they're changing a lot too. So it's like this weird thing. But, I always talk about, how so many shows have never worked in China that like are Western. They've brought the shows over and they don't work, and they've had to really learn and fully adapt so that the shows work. I mean, like, because everyone's like, oh, they're putting a lot of contemporary circus within China. I said, well, yeah, but not exactly in the way that they even tried like 10 years ago, because they see that it doesn't fully work unless you meld like with the culture and infuse,
Exactly.
things about the culture that are really important to the Chinese. And then those are the shows that really work. I mean, and this show now too, I mean, that's really something. How long do you think it's going to stay like that? Have they brought back anybody else, Leo, that had to leave? Because some people didn't get to stay.
There was some people that, because what happened is when we learned what was going on a little bit, they told us we're gonna close the show. It was at the end of January, 2020. And actually they said we will close for like a couple of weeks, and we're gonna, like, at the beginning it was 1 week because it was not pandemic yet. And then they said, and then we will give you update and let you know when we reopen. But we had we had weeks off coming in soon. So in the end, seeing like the situation wasn't getting better, they told us, okay, you can leave. They told us that on the February 1st. They told us you can leave, and then come back after the break that's coming up soon. So then some of us decide to go back home, some other decide to go on holidays, and some decide to stay in China in their apartment, like visit the city and everything. So for those who stayed in China and was still in China when they decide to reopen, then they stayed on the show. So there was like maybe four expat, let's say 4 or 5 expat. Then they brought back some guest act and the singer and the 2 singers. But the thing is, because at that point it has become pandemic, there was some country that wouldn't let their artists go back to China and vice versa. And there was also some people who was like, are we really gonna start working or not? Because now it's kind of messy in my country and everything. So there was a lot of insecurity. So some people refused to go back. So I think on date of today, there are maybe 8 expat, I would say, left on the show on 28.
Wow.
From the beginning or something like that.
Wow. Why did you, when they gave the option to leave or to stay, why did you decide to leave the show and go back home to Montreal?
All my family is in Canada, like in Quebec City. And I actually, at that moment, I had a tenant in my apartment in Quebec, and we had some problem, and I wasn't receiving the rent for the past like couple of months. So I was like, I seen it as an opportunity to see my family and to take that into my hands and deal with the situation face to face, because it was hard with all the time zone and everything to have a contact with the person. So I was like, if I'm there, that person wouldn't cannot not answer my email. I will be in front of her, so that person will have to explain me what's going on.
Oh my God. That's like such a thing like in our lives, like being so nomadic and, renting out apartments and renting
Yeah,
out homes and having to be away, but having so many things like happen. Like it's such like a normal thing where you would have
yeah,
like that issue, with somebody.
yeah. I took a flight from China to Quebec to talk with the person who was renting my apartment. This is normal, no?
It's so
Everybody,
normal because
everyone do stuff like that, no?
yeah. I mean, any other kind of typical person, they would be like, of course, I would be flying from China all the way to Quebec to make sure I get my money from my rental. Wow. I mean, and you never could have imagined because, like, of course, like I followed the story of your show and everything and how difficult it was for them and the local artists that were there and them
Hmm.
trying to open back up and not having enough artists to be able to do the show. And it's a really blended show, which I really like that they did that, and they're doing that more and more with Cirque and then like Dragon, where they're making sure that a certain amount of locals are hired to do all of the shows in China. And they're actually doing that with like rigging and stuff too, and like local people like working and manning the show too.
Yeah,
So it's really good. But then again, we saw like how difficult that was when all of the foreigners like had to leave and then getting people back into
yeah,
the show, because I think they were saying too they have not yet made money. I read that article a bit ago, but I don't know if they are starting to make money on the show. But just reading about how stressful it was for them to find all of these people to replace you guys, and
yeah.
not being able to find the same kind of specialist, and then
Please enjoy this short interlude. Join the Live Like an Acrobat podcast on Patreon. Become a patron. Enjoy early episode releases of the Live Like an Acrobat podcast, and stay tuned for more exclusive content to come in the future as the community grows. Help me, your host, Shenea Stiletto, to keep bringing you the creatively innovative episodes that you've grown to love by signing up at www.patreon.com/Live Like an Acrobat podcast. I hope to see you on Patreon, and thank you so much for your support of the podcast. It's my intention that the Live Like an Acrobat podcast will make a lasting positive impact on the circus arts world, performing arts world, creative entrepreneurship world, and acrobatic gymnastics competitive world at large. Check out my new vlog series, Think Like an Acrobat, which is available exclusively on Circus Talk as a pro series. It's offering pro tips to professionals within the circus arts industry. On the current episode of Think Like an Acrobat, I interview circus coach and training legend, Olga Pikhienko. Olga is a legendary Cirque Du Soleil artist and an icon within the industry, and she offers pro tips, secrets, and all things necessary to know how to train properly and how to coach properly at the highest levels that you can imagine within the circus industry. If you're seeking some virtual, fun, inclusive, diverse, and accessible entertainment, tune in to watch me in Omnium, Circus, Reimagined and Remastered. It's available right now online. There are listings and times every single day. And I am so thrilled to be a part of such a bold new circus. The information to get tickets to watch Omnium is available in the show notes. And now, back to my conversation with Léo Pilote.
uh-huh.
Yeah, so yeah, it was hard for them to replace all of us, especially that with Cirque du Soleil going down as the pandemic's going further, China being ready to restart their economic, but there's the main company was going down. So then Cirque du Soleil didn't had um like at one point it was only XTD, you know, the partnership company in China.
Hmm.
So like when they wanted to bring us back, we were trying to communicate with Cirque du Soleil, but Cirque du Soleil was going down and being sold to someone else. So we didn't have people to communicate that much at Cirque du Soleil, and it was a big mess.
Hmm.
But I think in the end, you have to do what is right and better for you, which which is what XTD did. And I think you would put that in a situation where a person have to do what is better for her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't seem that bad. It seems bad because it was a lot of expats who had moved there, and it's a big company. But in the end, even a big company in a pandemic, they need to do what's best for them, not for the expats who are back home.
Yeah, that
So,
come back into the country.
exactly. So yes, it was hard for them to find other people, but at the same time, I think if they choose to take other people instead of helping us coming back, it's because it was easier for them and better for them to take other people than us at
Mm-hmm.
that moment.
Like what you're saying, because there was no communication between them and Cirque. I mean, how are they going to manage that if there was like the major middleman like was no longer there? Yeah, it was like
Mhm.
it was impossible for them. They couldn't do it because their partner was gone to be able
Exactly.
to restore you guys back to that. What a mess!
Yeah. But
What a mess.
I'm so glad that I came back home because
Mm,
I had finally I had passed time in my apartment, which I never did. Like, I bought a condo after school in 2012, and I mostly never been there because I was always everywhere around the globe. So,
naturally.
so I lived in I paint the places I wanted to paint for years and never had time to paint. I've seen my family a bit before the pandemic hits really hard. Um, and yeah, I'm happy. And I wouldn't have been happy staying in, let's say I would have stayed in China,
Mm-hmm.
but the same scenario happened. I would have been so sad and so depressed to then be there. Yes, still have work, but not my friends.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
Mm-hmm.
like I said earlier, for me, the cast is so important.
Mm-hmm.
So then seeing like half of the cast not coming back, I don't think I would have lived it really well.
Yeah, I don't think you would have been very happy too from like everything that you've described because it makes a difference. And I think also too, it's important like when you get like to a certain age and to a certain level of experience within this career, you realize like what is important and essential to being like in a job because every single day of that job is like your life. And there's just different
Mhm.
dynamics that you want, like it's not like you can just like be anywhere and do anything. And like your intuition and your experience is going to like have you make different decisions that maybe you wouldn't have made that same decision at 23, like
Yeah,
at
exactly.
23 you would have stayed in China and you would have been like, okay, I'll just write out the pandemic, like like I just want to keep my job and I don't know what's
Yeah,
going to happen, but I'm going to stay. Like, and a different person, how many years later, is going to make different experiences. And I always say that too with people. Like, if I were that age, I would have done something totally different. And I like that because everyone thinks like you're always supposed to make the same decisions all the time, and it's like no,
hmm,
like you figure out like, oh well, if that kind of cast isn't going to be there, I don't want to do that show. I don't care how good it is. Like the show is only as good as my experience every single day in and out of the
yeah,
show.
exactly.
It's my life, it's my friendships, it's my relationships, it's who's there like speaking for me or caring about me in a certain way, even if it's people that you just met. I mean, it can be like that connected or not. And that makes a difference of like, do I want to stay here for another year or do I want to stay here for 5 years? Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, a lot of people are making a lot of different decisions. So I totally like agree with you. Like I was on my way to Dubai actually, and Dubai got canceled. And then I was on my way to the Maldives. And then the Maldives got canceled. So like I would have been stuck out of the country too. Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been home in LA. And, like at the time, I was like, oh my God, like, no, like, oh my God, what's happening? All of my contracts are getting canceled. And then, after a while, with people that did get stuck out of the country, I was like super grateful that I got stuck
To
in.
be home.
Yeah, to be home. I was like,
Yeah.
God, like,
Like,
thank God.
if you have to be stuck somewhere, okay,
Yeah.
two choice, in the Bahamas or home. But you know, other, either you get stuck on the beach, either you get stuck at home. But being stuck in a hotel in another country where you don't understand half of the news, this is not good. This is not
No,
fun.
no, 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 no. Well, and
Like,
also too, like my friends that I made like that were still in China, they were telling me so many things when this was all happening. So I was hearing, they were telling me everything that was happening way before. So I
yeah,
was like, engaging with them. And I was even thinking about that too. I was like, oh my God, yeah, like what about if I had gotten stuck in China? But like all my friends started getting like sent home that were in China, and some people were getting stuck there, like so many
mhm,
different things, and everybody that worked with me in Macau and stuff. So it was even interesting, like seeing their experience. But yeah, I'm telling you, if it again, it doesn't matter. It's especially because I think we travel so much, and our whole lives have been about travel. Like it's not that like the fantasy is kind of like not there, because like for sure, even if it would have been like the Maldives for me, it would have been like torture, like seeing everything
yeah.
happening in
Yeah, but for
America.
sure for like 7 months,
Yeah.
Maldives, it's not fun anymore. I'm
Without
just,
any work, without anybody there that without
yeah,
anybody coming, like I mean, you're like stranded. So it's like it's not like the situation was totally different, and then you're worrying
yeah.
about everybody that you love, and at least I could be here and worry with them, and have contact in
It's
real time.
priceless to be home.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Like even an island wouldn't have been like the vacation everybody probably thinks that it is.
yeah, exactly.
At that point. But so I'm glad that are back home. And yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit about, like I know that you've got like a new creation and a new contract
Yes,
coming up, and you're working, with Quebec based companies, which is also great. Like I'm also too working for more American companies now because I'm in America and I'm at home. And so of course like the access is totally different. And so yeah,
yeah.
it's like it's really, really nice too. It's a nice treat from like so many years of of being abroad and whatever. But yeah, I'd love to hear about it. I know you're working with Flip Fabric, right?
Yeah, I'm working with, I start working with them on, at the end of March.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it came to me as a surprise. Like, I was having the conversation with my boyfriend not so long ago saying, yeah, I think because I was working in a kindergarten with a group of 8 kids of 3 years old, and I was like, looking at the pandemic and everything, I think I won't do circus before 2023 or something. I think I gonna stay with the little with my little ones, until they graduate from the kindergarten, and and I was okay with that. Like, this is something also that China brought to me. I always have been resilient, but since I've been in China, I'm it's like it doubles.
It's a different level.
And yeah, I'm just like, I'm lucky to have what I have, and I love everything that I have, and I will do with what life brings me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was studying and I was working with kids. Like, I love kids. So I was like, I'm happy. Like, for sure, I miss performing, but I'm happy. So then I said that around Christmas and beginning of like middle of January or something like that. My friend Bruno contact me and he was like, "Hey, hey, do you still want to do circus? Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, yeah, for sure. I thought I wouldn't do any until 2023. And he was like, do you want to be part of here's the project. Do you want to be part of it? And I was like, what's happening?
You're like, sure. I mean,
Like, what? So then we start creation in March. And what
wow.
is amazing for me is like, I did Quebec Circus School and I did Montreal,
Mhm,
e- like National Circus School.
mhm.
So half of the cast did Quebec Circus School at the same time as me when I was a teenager. And the other half of the cast was people with whom I was mostly in National Circus School.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah,
No way.
I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
What?
So
Oh my, the
there's two
reunion.
yeah, there's two people that one of them never did a National Circus School. He was doing trampoline competition before,
Hmm.
but he's the husband of one of the people from National Circus School. So like, and I knew him from other friends and everything because he was in the circus industry before. And the other person that wasn't at school with me, but he did National Circus School and we met before. So I was like, oh my God, it's like my two circus world being brought together.
Oh, that's so cool. I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah.
Who would have
And
thought?
yeah, I know it's crazy.
That's so
And
crazy. Also crazy that so many like the same like classes, like all of you guys graduated, are still like working in circus. Like that's also a testament, right? Like
yeah,
how many of you graduated and how many of you are still working? Like that's amazing.
I think there's not much of us who stop performing.
Wow.
Even the people who finish school with an injury or something,
Mm-hmm.
like some have changed disciplines
Mm-hmm.
but still perform. um yeah,
Wow.
in my year, I'm
Wow.
not in contact with everybody. For
Mm-hmm.
sure the pandemic was a little bit a baby a baby boom for the people I graduate with, because we are starting to be in our 30s. And so like people who wanted to have kids not so long ago and were like, yeah, I'm gonna wait for that contract to finish, then it was finished. So
And now comes
but
baby.
I think most of the people who's like most I think plenty of the people who had babies or who are pregnant at the moment, I think they will come back to circus also after
Oh.
giving birth. So
Oh, that's so great. Yeah. It's so funny because like they just did this survey actually of like just like, people that are like obviously not in the circus. And they said that there was not the baby boom that they thought that there was during like the pandemic for people that like are outside of the arts. However,
Mhm.
in the arts, I
Mhm.
telling people no, there was the baby boom. It's just the baby boom happened in the circus. Like,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
there was definitely a boom in our industry, even though in other industries, even and people are like, really, even with like people like not having contracts and not working. I'm like, yeah, because this is like unimaginable that you could plan to have a year and a half or 2 years
Exactly.
without a job, but it's not your fault. So it totally like has changed the game with everybody, and you don't have to worry about interrupting your contract this last year. I mean,
Yeah, and getting back in shape for the next contract too. Like with all of this,
yeah,
when a performer give like other have a baby or give birth, I mean, there's all that time we need to take to train. That with a baby, you don't have that time. Your time is, yeah, like you have a little human being who need you for everything for at least a couple of months if you're the one who give birth. And then hope that daddy will be there, or mommy or whatever, during the time you need to train. Because with the life that we have right now, people working full time, like it's it's the reality and it's a choice, but the society we living in, people work a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's so much pressure, especially when you have to come back and after having a
Yeah,
baby. And I mean, like when we work, I mean, we have to work just like all the time. So
exactly.
if you have the opportunity, right? So depending on
Yeah.
what contract you're in, especially if you go into something where you're no longer a freelancer, and like what a great opportunity that is also too, and you wanting to like maintain that opportunity. I mean, and if both parents are working, yeah, I mean, it's very difficult to balance
Yeah.
that. And, people have to leave their kids at home. So if you're able to travel with your kids, that's also another thing. If you're able to get work that's in town, that's great because then
Hmm.
maybe, family can take care of your kids and help.
And sometimes,
But yeah.
yeah, and also sometimes you have in a couple, you have the one who's a performer, but the wife or the husband or the companion sometimes is not.
Yeah. Right.
So
Yeah.
you can just like after you just have a baby, you cannot just leave in the pandemic. Whoa, and be like, yeah, honey, I'm going on a gig. I might not come back in the next 5 months if I'm stuck over there because of the pandemic. But like you cannot do that.
I mean, like, it's like couldn't be like more of like a ridiculous situation for us, like during this time, even with the thought of trying to go back to work during the pandemic, especially if you had the baby. I mean, like you're saying, there's so many variables where it's like, you can't go over there. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. They might close the border again. There might be a second wave. Like, you won't be
Exactly.
able to travel together. You're going to do the quarantine, but you have the baby. Like, I mean, so many different things. It's
Yeah.
like, it's so crazy. Wow. So you are done with like the creation. So when is the show going to
Mm,
wrap up? And then like, are you doing like another group number with your
we
poll?
we are done with the first block of creation.
Uh huh.
Um, Around the end of September, we're gonna start the second phase. So the first phase was more like a laboratory. We were like everybody getting back in shape, working all together, seeing what is the vibe, testing stuff, gathering material, and then in September until January, we're gonna really place the show. We're gonna have all the all the scenography. So all the I forgot the name in English. Les décors, like everything that goes on stage.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Like the set
So
placement and like
yeah, we're
mhm.
gonna have all our setup. We're gonna have the lights. We're gonna have music, and then we're gonna put the show together. We're gonna have starting having her costume too. So we're gonna have like a month and a half or almost two to put all that together and to finish building our act. I gonna do Chinese pole solo in that show and plenty
Oh,
other group things that I cannot talk right now, but
oh, oh, oh,
welcome,
oh.
welcome. And yeah, so that's my actually I will be with them
Mm-hmm.
until 2023. So we hope to start the tour somewhere in the beginning of 2022, and the
Mm-hmm.
plan would be to tour 2022 and 2023. Um, and for now, now that that first phase with Flip Fabrique is done for the summer,
Mm-hmm.
at the beginning, I was supposed to do a show with them, a different show, but a summer show with them. But with the pandemic, that was canceled. But now they have other project, but I'm on another project then.
Sorry, Flip Fabric.
So, sorry for them, but I mean,
Girls
I
gotta do what a girl's gotta
I got really lucky. I think
do.
I
Yeah.
really thought I wouldn't work for a long time, but then I got many like offers, and I was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, this is well, how is that possible? And
Thankfully.
so yeah, I just did a shoot with for a festival for Montréal Complètement Cirque. It's a festival, circus festival in Montreal, that happens for a while now. Because I remember when I was at school, I did the first edition of that festival in animation. So at
Wow.
least I think it has 10 years or more. So I'm taking part of that festival, and Monday, in 4 days, I'm starting a summer creation with the Seven Fingers. That we gonna do somewhere close to, not too far from Toronto,
Okay.
this summer. Yeah. So
Nice.
I'm gonna be outside of Montreal, ta, 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 for a month. I'm gonna live my hotel life again, first time in a year and a half.
Are you is it going to be like outdoor open air, or is it going
Yeah,
to be inside?
it's an outdoor show.
Nice. Oh, it's going to be beautiful.
So yeah, it's gonna be fun and it's gonna be challenging. And I never work with Seven Fingers. Actually, when I broke my ACL, it was right before a contract I was supposed to do with them.
No way.
So I couldn't do the contract.
Wow.
So I'm pretty happy that they still remember me and they
Oh,
ask me to take part to another thing.
and it came back around.
Yeah,
Oh, that's so great. That's so amazing. I'm hearing a lot of stories like that. That it's experiences that people had where things fell through for whatever different reasons, and like then they came back like during the pandemic, and people are like, I
yeah,
never thought that I would work for them again, or that I would ever have the opportunity. And a lot of it has been because like the people are actually like in country, like so.
yeah,
I'm talking to,
exactly.
they're like every time they've asked me if I wasn't injured or whatever, they're like, I'm not in town. They're like, and this time they came and I'm in town because of the pandemic. So it's
Yeah,
like we lost, and then in some ways we're winning, and then other things are like losing out. Like it's just such like a random like mix of stuff. I'm so happy for you that came back.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited to see all of this happen, and I'm really grateful to be able to be performing close to home,
Mm.
because I realized that my friends and family, my mom came to visit me when I was in Switzerland. My cousin came visit me when I was in Berlin, but I have a really, really big family, and it's not everybody that are comfortable to travel or everything. So in the end, I feel like the people who was there for me as I grew up and everything never had the chance to see what I've become, or what all the circus school I've done brought me to, other than on video. So I'm really grateful for that.
Oh, that's so special. Again, it's like the experience that a lot of us are having where, yeah, it's like having where no our family has not seen us, some people in our families never have seen us, or friends
Yeah,
that like everyone's not just like, oh, I'm going to travel and come see you in like Dubai all the time. They're like, well, if you ever perform in LA, or if you ever perform nearby, like that'll be amazing.
yes,
Great. So it's so nice to have like these other opportunities that are like, again, they're kind of like miracles, like you said. These are like family members that otherwise would never have seen you. So it takes on like a completely different tone too. It's like very emotional for everyone. Like I've been emotional several times throughout this for different reasons, but a lot of it too is for, being able to like perform close to home, or even performing, virtually, but kind of like live in some ways
yeah,
too. But it is really special. And then with like, companies like the Seven Fingers, like you were saying, like Quebec or Montreal based companies.
yeah. Flip Fabrique. It's crazy because I went to school with them, so
Hmm.
yeah. The member, yeah.
Well, I really hope that you have really beautiful experiences, Leo, and
Thank you.
fantastic contracts. It was so wonderful to catch up with you and to hear about, everything that you've done all over these years, because you've had such a beautiful career, as a premier Chinese pole artist too. And it's still such like a niche, and you've been through so much physically. Like that's been so much, and I just like applaud you for like making it through all of that, and
Thank you so
like
much.
able to maintain your career like through like the ups and downs. Like you were incredibly solid when I met you, so I'm not surprised. I mean, you're super grounded and everything, and so I love that you've continued to have the opportunities that you deserve and like expanded and stuff into so many different areas, and you survived China, so
Yeah, that makes me stronger.
like, if you can survive working and living in China, like you have done it. You are made. Like you can do anything.
Been there, done that. I'm ready for everything.
You can give a master class, like anything.
Exactly.
Like the sky is the limit. Like the only other thing I wanted to ask you, like for ending like our time together, Leo, which has been just like so lovely. Thank you so much again for coming out to the podcast. And I just wanted to ask you, like, what do you think about like moving forward and looking forward for your career, and like what are your hopes kind of for your future? I know that everything has changed and it's so like winding, and we're all kind of being hit from so many different like ways, and we're having to adapt like even more than we usually would. But yeah, like how do you feel about things like moving forward, and especially like about the circus world and stuff? Like how do you feel about that, just to like end us on our time together?
Um, I hope for the circus industry to like, and when I say that, I think of all the smaller company. I
Mm-hmm.
really hope that every little company will be able to come back and raise from all that pandemic, because it was really hard on art. I think people gonna need art. They were needing so much during the pandemic, and circus industry figure out to make it on media and everything. And I think now it's time to go back to show real and like with real audience that we can hear, we can see, maybe not touch yet, but but I can't wait until the time that we can allow to see people after the show and to have conversation with people who have seen the show and everything. But first, I hope that we will for now on be able to do shows, not being stopped again by the pandemic. And I hope that every people who, you know there's the word going on in in circus industry a little bit, that, oh yeah, because of the pandemic some people stop performing and like find their backup plan or everything. Like, to be honest, I'm at school, I'm studying psychology, but it's not, for me, it's not a backup plan. It's when I won't do, like, when my body won't want to do circus anymore, like, I will go do something else that I love, and psychology seemed to be it. And I hope that everybody who found something else that they loved during the pandemic will keep loving that, but will also have the opportunity to go back to circus. And then when the moment will happen, to go to the other thing that they love.
Yeah, yeah, that's so beautifully put. I love that you said that we all got the opportunity to discover other things that we love. And there were many things, I discovered like I always loved podcasting and I always wanted to do it. And so that's why I started doing it during the pandemic. And something that I love, that I got the time to be able to do. And I was thinking for you, you can be our circus psychologist eventually, Leo, if that is something that inspires you, because I think we totally need it, especially like the effect of the pandemic on everything, because physically, that's how a lot of us breathe, and that's how we're able to maintain such beautiful like psychology, I think. But definitely the impact to the psychology and the mental health within the circus industry has been impacted so severely over this last year. And, a lot of people I think are probably dealing with a lot of like PTSD in some ways, from having so much of our lives like ripped away, and then having to adapt so much. And we're all still adapting. Just for anybody who's listening out there that's not in the circus, like, of course, everyone says things are opening back up and shows are coming back, but it's still very slow for our industry. A lot of people are still waiting for their contracts to move forward. Some things have still are on pause. And, with that many people waiting to come back and some shows not being brought back. So it's still a really dynamic time for all of us. So I think, you'd be so incredible, Leo, if you
Thank you.
In the circus world, and you can be our circus psychologist. And
I hope so. It's my dream. To do psychology through circus.
I think that you would be so brilliant and like so helpful. You have such a beautiful, like compassionate mind. And I think that there's nobody better to help out circus performers and people within this industry than people that have lived it, and lived it at a high level, and have given so much of their lives to it like you are. And, I know that you're going to continue to have many more years performing because you're super young. So, you have so many more years of development and of exploring like all the ways that you want to be an artist. And then just help out everything that you do if you choose to be that in the future. But I'm looking forward to all of your next chapters, and I'm so excited for you. And again, I hope that everything works out well, Leo. And so much love to Puppy in the back. Thank you. He's going to sit down. Thank you so much for coming onto the podcast, Leo. Take such good care.
Thank you for tuning in to my conversation with the fabulous Léo Pilote. And thank you so much for supporting the podcast. Please remember to like and subscribe to the podcast, to share the podcast. I so appreciate it. I appreciate your support, and I will see you on the next episode. The Live Like an Acrobat podcast is also available on Circus Talk, the inclusive, independent, and international online network for the circus industry. Circus Talk's mission is to create a level playing field for this industry and democratize access to information. Please consider subscribing to the Live Like an Acrobat podcast and to the Circuspreneurblog.com, where you will find extended conversations and interactive content of each episode of the Live Like an Acrobat podcast. I'm your host, Shenea Stiletto, and until next time, please stay safe and stay healthy.